This is Keep the Faith Ministry News. I'm Hal Mayer. We can pretend that the Constitution, which was written to hold the government accountable, is still our governing document. The reality we must come to terms with, however, is that in the America we live in today, the government does whatever it wants, freedom be damned. We, the people, have been terrorized, traumatized, and tricked into a semi-permanent state of compliance by a government that cares nothing for our lives or our liberties. The boogeyman's names and faces may change over time: terrorism, the war on drugs, illegal immigration, etc. But the end result remains the same: our unquestioning acquiescence to anything the government wants to do in exchange for the phantom promise of safety and security. Thus, in the so-called name of national security, the Constitution has been steadily chipped away at, undermined, eroded, whittled down, and generally discarded to such an extent that what we are left with today is but a shadow of the robust document adopted more than 2 centuries ago. Most of the damage, however, has been inflicted upon the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, which historically served as the bulwark from government abuse. A recitation of the Bill of Rights set against a backdrop of government surveillance, militarized police, SWAT team raids, asset forfeiture, eminent domain, overcriminalization, armed surveillance, drones, whole-body scanners, stop and frisk searches, all sanctioned by Congress, the White House, the courts, and the like, would understandably sound more like a eulogy to freedoms lost than an affirmation of rights we truly possess. Our individual freedoms have been eviscerated so that the government's powers could be expanded. Yet those who gave us the Constitution and the Bill of Rights believe that the government exists at the behest of its citizens. It is there to protect, defend, and even enhance our freedoms, not violate them. It was no idle happenstance that the Constitution opens with these 3 powerful words: we the people. In other words, we have the power to make and break the government. We are the masters, and they are the servants. We, the American people, the citizenry, are the arbiters and the ultimate guardians of America's welfare, defense, liberty, laws, and prosperity. Still, it's hard to be a good citizen if you don't know anything about your rights or how the government is supposed to operate. Americans are constitutionally illiterate. Most citizens have little, if any, knowledge about our basic rights. And our educational system does a poor job in teaching the basic freedoms guaranteed in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. A survey by the Annenberg Public Policy Center found that a little more than 1/3 of respondents, or 36%, could name all 3 branches of the U.S. government, while another 1/3, 35%, could not name a single one. Only 1/4 of Americans, 27%, know it takes a 2/3 vote of the House and the Senate to override a presidential veto. 1 in 5 Americans, or 21%, incorrectly think that a 5-4 Supreme Court decision is sent back to Congress for reconsideration. And more than half of Americans do not know which party controls the White House and Senate. A 2006 survey by the McCormick Tribune Freedom Museum found that only 1 out of 1,000 adults could identify the 5 rights protected by the First Amendment. Thomas Jefferson recognized that a citizenry educated on their rights and interests and duties is the only real assurance that freedom will survive. As Jefferson wrote in 1820, "I know no safe depository of the ultimate powers of our society but the people themselves." And if we think them not enlightened enough to exercise their control with a wholesome discretion, the remedy is not to take it from them, but to inform their discretion by education. This is the true corrective of abuses of constitutional power." End quote. If this constitutional illiteracy is not remedied, and soon, freedom in America will be doomed. Constitutional illiteracy has opened the door for every so-called right not enumerated in the 10 amendments to be protected by the federal government at the expense of the fundamental rights and freedoms included in the Constitution. This in turn opens a door for outside interests, such as the Vatican or the Jesuits, to stealthily guide the nation away from its foundations in religious freedom. In the movements now in progress in the United States to secure for the institutions and usages of the church the support of the state, Protestants are now following in the steps of papists. Nay more, they are opening the door for the papacy to regain in Protestant America the supremacy which she has lost in the Old World. That's The Great Controversy, page 573. This is Keep the Faith Ministry News. Thank you for watching.